Good morning. Welcome to Unity Church of the Hills, our Sunday service streaming live from Austin, Texas. We're so happy to be here with you today. Before we get started, please take a moment and say hello. Let us know how you're doing, where you're watching from, and mostly we just want to connect our hearts with yours. I'm really excited to let you know about a new program that we're launching today called Sharing is Caring. You may not realize that you're sharing the Sunday message while it's live, especially in these first few minutes, really makes a difference. Not only do we reach new people who don't know about Unity or might really need today's message, but it also helps all of our Facebook friends, our fellow congregants who've gotten lost, let's say, on Facebook scrolling, and they just need that gentle nudge and reminder that service has just started. So what we're doing is for every share during the live service, we'll donate $5 to a different nonprofit every week. This week, we're supporting the Round Rock Serving Center. And what they do is they help people in the Round Rock area and southern Williamson County with food, clothing, and financial assistance. They've been at it since 1987, and so for every share that we receive during the Sunday service, we'll donate $5. And it's a way for us to connect as a community and make a difference. So before we get started with today's message, I do have someone special who wants to say hello.
Hi, everybody. I am so thrilled to be doing this video right now. My name is Tony Dahl, for those who don't know me. I have been with Unity Church of the Hills, oh my goodness, probably 15 years now, because my daughter was 2 when I moved to Texas. This is an enormously strange time, but what's happened for me is that I've felt, even though I've been distanced from people, I felt a lot of love come from people as well. So that's been a great feeling for me. Just to tell you what I've been doing for the last few months, I actually started a build process back in November of a house in Liberty Hill. And during this quarantine, I closed on that house. So you can imagine how challenging that was and how many trips to Home Depot and Lowe's that I had to do with a mask on and all of that just to get settled into the house. So really that's what I've been doing for the last few months. I have been just busy with just trying to get our house pulled together, get the kids' rooms pulled together. But I just enormously miss everybody at Unity. I miss being with my folks on the podium, my celebration family, if you will. I miss my Sunday dinners with Shonda. I am truly grateful that I have my health, but I cannot wait to see everyone and be back up on that podium at that stage and just singing to everybody and feeling the love and feeling the joy. So I hope everybody is well. I love you all, and please stay safe and just feel the love that's coming from the celebration crew.
Thank you so much, Tony. It was so great to see you and connect with you. Just a quick reminder, we do have the Sharing is Caring program that just started. And for every share of the live service, we'll be donating $5 today to the Round Rock Serving Center. Thanks so much, and let's get started with our Sunday service.
Audrey, the words.
The Spirit all over me. I feel the Spirit all over me. It's in my hands, in my soul, down in my feet. I feel the Spirit all over me. Hey, hey, I feel the Spirit all over me. I feel the Spirit all over me. It's in my hands, in my soul, down in my feet. I feel the Spirit all over me.
I feel God's presence all over me. I feel God's presence all over me. It's in my hands, in my soul, down in my feet. I feel God's presence all over me.
I feel God's presence all over me. I feel God's presence all over me. It's in my hands, in my soul, down in my feet. I feel God's presence all over me. Moving, moving, moving down in my soul.
I feel abundance all over me. I feel abundance all over me. It's in my hands, in my soul, down in my feet. Ooh, I feel abundance all over me.
I feel abundance all over me. I feel abundance all over me. It's in my hands, in my soul, down in my feet. I feel abundance all over me.
I feel God's power all over me. I feel God's power all over me. It's in my hands, in my soul, down in my feet. I feel God's power all over me.
I feel God's power all over me. I feel God's power all over me. It's in my hands, in my soul, down in my feet. I feel God's power all over me. I feel God's love, yes, all over me. I feel God's love, yes, all over me. It's in my hands, in my soul, down in my feet. I feel God's love, yes, all over me. Moving, down in my soul, down in my soul.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity Church of the Hills. We want to thank you for taking the time to tune in with us this morning on Facebook Live and YouTube and even through our website. And as Tammy mentioned in the early video thing, take some time to share the service here with us on your Facebook Live this morning or on YouTube. Let your friends and family know that you're spending part of your Sunday here celebrating with us. We are so grateful that you are taking the time to watch today. And if you happen to be watching this later, just on the recorded playback, thank you for taking the time to do that as well then. Also, thank you, Celebration, for that wonderful, uplifting. That's one of my favorites, to get the spiritual juices flowing and everything. Thank you all very much for that this morning. Before we get started here, I'd like to ask for you all to join us in sending prayers and healing energy to our very own Dr. Raz. He's been having some challenges the last couple of days. Got some pneumonia-like symptoms. He is over in the hospital right now, over in the Lakeway area. So we want to send him some prayerful, healing energy and let him know that he is loved and held in prayer with us this morning. So keep him in your consciousness, keep him in your prayers, and we look forward to seeing him back real soon. With that, let's turn our attention to our mission statement. It'll show up there on your screen. I invite you to speak it out loud together wherever you are here. This is our mission statement here at Unity Church of the Hills. Say it with me. We put God first, celebrate life, serve truth, and empower people to transform their lives. We've been doing that here at Unity Church of the Hills for going on 25 years now. Our 25th anniversary is coming up this fall, so stay tuned for some special announcements regarding that in the coming weeks. We'd also like to take this time right now to recognize first-timers. If you are with us for the first time on Facebook or YouTube Live or through our website at unityhills.org, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us this morning and let you know that here at Unity Church of the Hills, we accept all paths to God. We know that all paths ultimately lead to God. So wherever you are on your path, we welcome you to join us here in that search for truth and in that communion with God. We want to thank you very much for taking your time, and then let your friends and family know about your experience here at Unity Church of the Hills. We know that wherever you are on your spiritual path, we will gladly meet you there, and that God is with us as well right there. If you want to know more about us, you can just type the word connect in the comment section, and then one of our ambassadors will reach out to you and get you some additional information. Also, I'd like to let you know that after the service today, our traditional Going Deeper session is going to take a little bit of a left turn today. We're going to have a Going Deeper virtual gathering with our very own board president, Frank Phelan, who's going to be updating us on everything that's been going on in the background around here and how we are doing and what's on the horizon for Unity Church of the Hills as we move into the fall here. If you have any questions, be formulating those. You can drop those in the Facebook comments section during that Going Deeper session after the service. That will be on Facebook Live, so if you're watching on YouTube or whatever, you may have to get over to Facebook Live for the Going Deeper session there with Frank. Next Sunday also, we'll be doing a continuation of this where we'll have a Zoom gathering with the entire Board of Trustees and gives everyone an opportunity to check in and get to know our board a whole lot better. So we want to invite you to make plans now to attend that Zoom gathering next Sunday to connect with Frank Phelan and the rest of the Board of Trustees. And now as we get ready to prepare ourselves for our service time here together, I want to open with prayer, and I just gently invite you, wherever you are viewing this right now in your own space, if you're by yourself or if you're with a loved one and everything sharing this, I invite you both individually to just settle in to the space where you are, knowing that wherever you are, God is present there with you, and that all is in divine order as we open in prayer. We say thank you, thank you, thank you, living, loving Spirit. We realize and accept in consciousness that you are the great creator of all creation, and that we, each one of us, are created in the image and likeness of your creative Spirit. That each one of us being created in that image and likeness, we are created to be creators. And that all the days of our lives, that's what we are doing. We're moving about the universe, co-creating this experience with the one great creative principle that creates everything, including us. And we say thank you, thank you, thank you for this creative principle. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the inspiration of divine ideas that are literally swirling about our consciousness at all times and in all circumstances. That we are born in an abundant universe, that our nature is prosperous, and that we can be willing co-creators of this experience, and that we can create in the direction of love, peace, harmony, compassion, and goodwill to everyone, everywhere. We are so grateful for that opportunity to share the love of God, to share the truth of God, to share the wisdom of God, and to express ourselves creatively as we co-create this experience towards a greater experience each and every day of our lives. And so we say once again, thank you, living, loving Spirit. We are ever so grateful. And so we pray in the name and the nature of Jesus the Christ. And so it is, and so we allow it to be. Amen.
Thank you, Rick, for that wonderful, amazing, centering prayer. Speaking of our prayer chaplains and prayer, we want to invite you to receive one-on-one prayer from them following today's service by calling 512-814-5365. Leave a message with your name, phone number, and a request, and a chaplain will call you back. We do have quite a few announcements today. Not a lot of them are funny, but they are all important. So here we go. In case you missed it in the opening video, we have launched a new program called Sharing is Caring. For every share of today's service on Facebook while it's live, we'll donate $5 to Round Rock Area Serving Center. Each week, we'll pick a different nonprofit organization to support. If you haven't already shared today's service, please take a moment to do so now. Our cucumbers are in a real pickle. Seems we're in need of a few more volunteers in the community garden. Let us help them out. It's a great way to get outside and to get some exercise while you're at it. So email Shonda Birch to get signed up today. The UCOH Garden team is sponsoring a drawing in our bookstore. The photo on your screen showcases the incredible items that are included in the winning basket. You get one ticket by picking up some produce, which is available on a love offering basis. And you can get an additional ticket if you buy something from the bookstore. Bookstore hours are Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and the winner will be announced on Sunday, August 30th. This is the last weekend for the school supply drive, benefiting Round Rock ISD families in transition. It's also tax-free weekend. Shonda will be here today until about 1 p.m., and then on Monday until 5 p.m. to receive any drop-off supplies. And thank you to everyone who has already contributed. Take a journey through history to explore the roots of unity. Beginning on Tuesday, August 18th, Reverend Mary Grace Sorensen will be offering the history of New Thought and Unity via Zoom. This class can be taken for credit, and we are offering 2 different price options. Learn more and register online at unityhills.org. The non-dualistic teachings of A Course in Miracles challenges every belief, thought, and perception that you have ever had about yourself, others, the world, and God. Join Jennifer Feiereisel, longtime ACIM student and practitioner, for a year of in-depth study. The 2020 series promises to be thought-provoking and paradigm-shifting. It begins with a 15-week series starting August 20th or 21st. The workshop is offered on a love offering basis, and you can learn more and register on our website. Whether you have been to a previous ladies' high tea or not, all female identifying individuals are invited to a special virtual high tea. We're packing the tea with lots of fun, from tea totes to a virtual fashion show to door prizes. This year's tea is one you do not want to miss. And the best part, it's free. We do have some sponsorship opportunities to help us cover the costs, but we don't want any lady left behind. The tea is on Saturday, August 22nd from 2 to 4 p.m. And we're even offering Zoom rehearsals at 10 a.m. and noon that day for the tech shy. So register online. Parents, drive your kids to the UCOH parking lot on Saturday, August 22nd for a Fly Up Sunday parade. Drivers will toot their horns and kids will hold their decorated wings out the window as they ride in the parade. Every child receives a cupful of grape tomatoes, and it will all be done with proper physical distancing as we celebrate all of our youth flying up to their new classrooms. Then on Sunday, August 23rd at 1 p.m., we will host virtual open houses for our kids to meet and greet teachers, angels, and fellow classmates. Contact Linda Hancock for more details. The nominating team is still in the process of identifying individuals to serve on our Board of Trustees, and you have until August 21st to submit candidate recommendations. The online submission form can be found on our website. And now I would invite you to settle in for some time of meditation. And we begin today's meditation with an invitation to go ahead and give yourself that gift of total presence. So anything that has happened before this moment, anything that is yet to be, I invite you to gently set it aside as we anchor ourselves fully into this now moment. And if you closed your beautiful eyes, I invite you to do so now. And with each conscious breath, relax even deeper. Breathing in and letting go. And if there's any place in your body that's calling for your attention, you can just send your breath right there. Breathing in and breathing out. Relaxing more and more into the infinite presence of the divine. Opening to the allness of this present moment. Now imagine that you are standing in a vast canyon or a field on a clear night. The sky is clear and it is at its most visible. The stars in the sky are brilliant, bright, and infinite. As far as the eye can see, stars illuminate the night sky. Allow your gaze upon this vastness to be soft. And as you soften your gaze, perhaps a single star or constellation draws you in. It becomes brighter than all the other stars around you, and your focus is pulled there. Allow yourself to be drawn in by its brilliance as you breathe and notice. You see, you are a free agent for the quantum field with access to an infinite array of possibilities. And the night sky represents that infinite field of potentiality. And that single star, that single constellation, is that indwelling presence within you, pulling you to a creative idea that is yours alone, that you are being called to bring into form. And you may not know what that is at this moment, but it is there for you. And so I invite you to bask in the creative impulse of the universe and to listen in the silence. We are swimming in a field of infinite possibility, supported by a loving intelligence that wants us to thrive. And so I invite you to remain in that field of possibilities while you go ahead and bring yourself back into this time and wiggling your fingers and toes. When you are ready, open your beautiful eyes.
Jesus, you're the center of my joy. All that's good and perfect comes from you. You are the heart of my contentment, the hope for all I do. Spirit, you are the center of my joy. When I've lost my direction, you're the compass for my way. You're the fire and light when the nights are long and cold. In sadness, you are the laughter that brightens up my day. When I'm alone, your hand is there to hold. That's why I say that, Spirit, you are the center of my joy. All that's good and perfect comes from you. You are the heart of my contentment. You're the hope for all I do. Spirit, you're the center of my joy. You are why I find laughter in the simple things in life. You are the music in the meadows and the streams. Oh, you are the voices of the children in my family and my home. You're the source and finish of my highest dreams. That's why I can say that, Spirit, you're the center of my joy. All that's good and perfect comes from you. You're the heart, you are the heart of my contentment. You're the hope for all I do. Spirit, you are the center of my joy. Spirit, you are the center You're the center of my joy. My joy. Oh, my joy.
Good morning once again, and thank you once again, Celebration, Roderick Sanford. Way to rock the house. So, today begins the first of a two-part series called Created to be Creators. I was scheduled to speak next Sunday. I was going to talk about this in sort of one service, but with Dr. Raz being in the hospital, it turned into a two-parter. So we're going to spread this across two parts, which is always good for me because 20 minutes is never enough time to actually get in everything that you want to say about these topics, especially about creation, creativity, and our role as co-creators of this experience. So we're going to dive into that in just a few moments, but I want to kind of outline what we're going to be doing here today and next week as well. There'll be a lot of the information that we're going to be sharing here will be coming primarily from two sources. One is Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, and we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. And the second big part of the equation is also Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. And then in amongst that, we'll be intersecting with some other things from Dr. David Hawkins, Unity Principles. We'll probably name check Don Miguel Ruiz and Ernest Holmes as well before we're through with this process of talking about creativity and our role that we are created to be creators. And where this came from, as Tammy and I were brainstorming what this talk would be about, I just kind of started riffing on this idea, basically Unity Principles, where if God is the ultimate creator, and that we, each one of us, are created in the image and likeness of God, then we are created as creators. That is our foundational spiritual identity. That comes before we have a name, before we have a family, before we have a hair color, an eye color, any of those other kinds of attributes and everything, that at our foundation, we are creative in nature. That if we are not acting in alignment with our nature, and in effect going against our creative nature, then our life is going to become dysfunctional. For me personally, that's not something that I learned in a book. That's something that I learned from actual experience. And then later on, when I came across and intersected with Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, she gave me a language to explain what I was experiencing and so forth. And it was there that I began to understand that I was actually living out of alignment with my creative nature and was, in effect, resisting accepting that creative nature and everything. And that's why my life was dysfunctional at the time. Ironically, as I was coming to that realization, I was actually working in the entertainment business at that point in time, in the film and music business specifically, and you would think that those would give you plenty of opportunities to be creative, but I was in a role in a company, had evolved into a role in a company where I was dealing more with lawyers and accountants and everything, and was, at the time, seemed like I was doing everything but being creative. And so I had that sort of clash of what I thought the experience was going to be and then what it really was. And that led to sort of cognitive dissonance, and that ushered in a dark night of the soul, and that ultimately ushered in the invitation from Spirit, which I now can see now, to walk away from that experience in the entertainment business and, in effect, begin again. To begin again. I was talking with someone earlier this week that the mark of the spiritual warrior, is to always be at the beginning. And the way I internalized that was that to have an attitude and consciousness that I'm always at the beginning keeps me open to learning. That I never get to the point to where I think I've figured it all out and I've found the secret to life and everything, that there's actually more still to experience, there's more still to learn, and that the more I can keep myself in an open position, the more able I am to learn from my experience, to be present in the present moment without having to think that I've already got it all figured out. So to be a spiritual warrior in this sense is to always adopt, to have as my primary motivation to be open, to be at the beginning so that I can be present with Spirit, so that I can be present with the creative process, and to always feel like I'm there at the very beginning. It reminds me, when I think about that, it reminds me of Jesus' teaching that if we want to see the kingdom of heaven, to learn to be like these children. And one of the aspects that he was pointing out in that is that children have that sense of wonder, that sense of amazement, at being alive in the kingdom and just sheer play. If you ever noticed a couple of kids when they're playing sometime and they run into a conflict and they get into a little fight and a little tussle, 2 minutes later they will have changed their minds. They will have hugged each other's necks and then gone back into the business of playing. They don't accumulate the drama and everything. They're able to let it go and to get right back to that creative spirit, to be in the kingdom of heaven and to be playful in spirit. And I can tell you from experience, I'm 62 now, but I still have a youthful spirit and consciousness. I still feel young inside. Many of you probably feel that as well. And one of the ways that I'm able to cultivate that experience is by being involved in the creative process, to be a conscious co-creator of this experience. And specifically as it relates to me, a co-creator of my own experience. That puts me in a position of power as opposed to a position of having to react to circumstances and everything. When I'm shrinking from that power, it's easy for me to flip over into, to feeling powerless or to feel like a victim of circumstances and so forth. But it's always getting back up on the horse and reassuming my power as a creator, a powerful co-creator of this experience that keeps me on the path and keeps me moving towards the experience of peace. That if I'm in alignment with my creative and spiritual nature, that I have a much better shot at experiencing peace during the course of my experience than otherwise. So, I want to start off to kind of get the ball rolling here. I want to read a brief quote from one of the opening chapters in Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic. For those of you all who might be Elizabeth Gilbert's fans of Eat, Pray, Love, and you haven't come across Big Magic, I highly encourage you to pick that book up. I've been listening to it on Audible recently, and I want to thank Tammy for first bringing it to my attention because it was a very valuable piece to add to the toolbox, so to speak, of creative experience and creative nature. So I want to read this thing. This comes very early in the book, and she starts off with a question. Do you have the courage to bring forth the treasures that are hidden within you? Surely something wonderful is sheltered inside of you. I say this with all confidence because I happen to believe that we are all walking repositories of buried treasures. I believe this is one of the oldest and most generous tricks the universe plays on us human beings, both for its own amusement and our own. The universe buries strange jewels deep within us and then stands back to see if we can ever find them. The hunt to uncover those jewels, that's creative living. The courage to go on that hunt in the first place, that is what separates a mundane existence from a more enchanted one. The often surprising results of that hunt, that's what I call big magic. She literally means that too. She doesn't mean that this is a magical experience. She actually means what she says, that this is literally creativity is magic, not magical. It's magic. It's literally communing with the creative forces and the creative power and the creative energies that are literally swirling about us at all times, and then to work in cooperation with that, with those principles and so forth. And the result of that is that we create magic. Now, one of the big stumbling blocks for a lot of people, and it was for me in my own experience, and one of the things that I had to heal in the early days of the walk, is that the kind of creative living that she's talking about is not necessarily professional creative success or artistic success. And while those are fine and good and some of the more obvious kinds of expressions of creativity that we can aspire to and even achieve in our own lives, this is not all that she is speaking about. She is literally talking about adopting an attitude and consciousness that allows us to look at every area of our life as a creative opportunity. I know that there are probably many among you here who, I know we've got a great gardening team here who's been setting up our gardening thing over here and having all kinds of vegetables and goodies coming out of the garden that are, by the way, available in the Unity UCO bookstore here for a love offering. So if you're in the mood for fresh, homegrown vegetables and everything, drop by here and pick up a batch of them and give us a love offering. But I've taken notice this past year, probably since the coronavirus thing happened and everything, is that once the activities were sort of interrupted in the normal routines and I wasn't spending so much time jetting around from the house going to different events and we were kind of sheltered in place, as it were, that my creative desires, one of the ways it manifested was in taking up gardening around the house. For the past week, in fact, I've been spending time, placing sod grass in my front yard and repairing my front yard. And it's been a daily thing for about a week now. And in the process of that, getting down in the dirt, putting your hands in the dirt, laying the grass, cutting the pieces, getting your design of your yard right and getting everything done, I became very aware this is, besides it being hot work at this point in time in the middle of summer doing this is actually a creative process. And it was that awareness that I'm actually engaged in a creative process, communing with nature, moving this grass that had been, cut up somewhere else and then trucked over to my house and dropped in my driveway, and then moving around and doing that, and then taking pictures. I've been loving taking pictures in my front yard, like watching this project progress and everything, going like, wow. Just in 1 week's time, it has literally transformed our experience around the house and of our house. And that too, even though it seems like hard work and more physical manual labor, it's actually a very creative process, because the grass itself is an ongoing creative process. And that even some of the plots of grass that I've laid down that seem to be brown and getting some dead grass and everything, that as I stand out there every day and I water that yard generously, getting all this grass take root, I'll walk out the next morning and see new growth. The creative process is ongoing in that turf that's laying there in my front yard, laying there in your front yard. Creativity is literally going on around us at all times. And that we ourselves are expressions, effects, and consequences of that creative process. That is our true foundational identity, our true foundational purpose in the world, is that we are creating whether we're consciously aware of it or unconscious of it. It's not a matter that we are creators. The only variable between us, so to speak, is what are we creating with our, through our experience, with the opportunities that are available to us, because we are creating one way or the other. And this resonates also with actually all of these things that I've been saying up to this point sort of relate and align with Unity Principles number 1, 2, and 3, that God, what we call God the Good, is the only one power and one presence active everywhere in the universe at all times. And that while it may be fine for us to call it God or Spirit or living, loving Spirit or the universe or any other name that we could attach to this principle, that at the core of it, once we start looking at the characteristics of this principle, two things come to mind right off the bat: that God is love and God is literally creativity. God is literally creation itself. And that you and I, as Unity Principle number 2 reminds us, we are created in the image and likeness of God the Creator. And being in the image and likeness of God the Creator, that we are created as creators, intended to be co-creators of this experience, not even intended to, that we are in effect co-creators of this experience. And that the only variable really is like I said a moment ago, what are we creating with our opportunities that are amongst us? And we're oscillating also back and forth, to use A Course in Miracles language here. We're oscillating back and forth between love and fear all the time. And sometimes we're creating from love and with love in mind and so forth. And sometimes we might be creating some things where there's a little more fear involved in that. The good news is that our creations that come from fear are unstable. They're unstable, and they don't actually last over the course of time. We have to bring the energy of love into those creations to harmonize the creative process that's going on there. And love always neutralizes fear. That's one of the characteristics and qualities of love, is that it's what Charles Fillmore calls the harmonizing power. Right? That if we're doing, in our 12 powers, I should say this also, this month is August, and in the 12 powers calendar here at Unity, that the power of the month for the month of August is the power of will. And the power of will is our executive power. And the power of will has an interesting relationship to the other 12 powers, because the power of will can actually act, independently of the other 12 powers. It's really interesting. If you decide to do something, whether it defies your understanding, whether it defies your own better discernment and everything, whether it even, not even paying attention to the power of your love, that whatever your will says to do, then the other 11 powers have to follow along with it, because the will is the executive power, it's the choosing power, it's the deciding power. And so the will, acting independently of the other 11 powers, and especially the power of love, can get us off track in our lives very, very quickly. That if we're only choosing what we want when we want it because we want it, and everything else, sort of be damned, as it were, then we can get off track in our lives pretty quickly following that kind of thing. One of the things that comes to mind immediately with that is like with addictive behaviors or addiction experiences and so forth, that we're choosing this addictive agent, whatever it may be, and it comes in all kinds of forms, and that when we start following that around and choosing that from our will, we can easily go off track. And it's really interesting to see that we can also misapply the power of our love, because in an addictive environment, as it were, in an addictive experience, our will is choosing against our better judgment, against our better interests and everything. And even the drug addict loves his drug of choice, so to speak. He brings love into it. That's a misapplication of love, but nonetheless, he brings love in to harmonize his experience, to make sure that he has his drug of choice on hand whenever he needs or wants it and everything. That's a misapplication, of course, of our 12 powers, but nonetheless, it is among the range of options that are available to us. And the only time we would do that and work in opposition to our own better interest is if we have not consciously brought ourselves into alignment with our fundamental spiritual identity, which is we are creators. We are born as creators. We're creating all of our lives, as I said, whether we're consciously creating or unconsciously, that we are in effect creating at all times. Some of our creations are unstable, some are more stable than others. And there's a distinct energetic difference between the two. And so what we're talking about here as created to be creators is to get in alignment with that fundamental spiritual nature, that at our root, at our foundation, that we are creators, and then to work in alignment with that, to consciously be aware of what it is that we're creating in our lives, not only for our own personal experience and everything, but also for the experience of the people that we intersect with. It's really an interesting thing when you think about it. Sometimes there's, I don't know what the latest actual figure is, but somewhere near 7.5 billion people on the planet. 7.5 billion people on the planet. And each one of us is a creator. Each one of us is born as a creator. Each one of us is co-creating this experience. And that as we're co-creating this experience, the collective energy of all of our choices has a resonant tone, a resonant energy, a resonant vibration collectively. Dr. David Hawkins, in his work, Power versus Force, among others, he articulates this, and he estimates that we are collectively, the whole planet, resonating at the energy vibration that equates to what we know as courage. And if you recall in the opening reading there, Elizabeth says, that the courage to go on that hunt in the first place, that is what separates a mundane existence from a more enchanted one, the courage. I remind you all that the root word that forms the word courage comes from a root word that means heart. And so to have courage is to have heart. And that if we're moving in that direction of courage, that's when the level of courage in Dr. Hawkins' world is where we begin to access true creative power. We move beyond and evolve beyond the energies of force, which are more appropriately aligned with things like pride and shame and guilt and anger and fear and all of those kinds of what we call lower energies. And that courage is the threshold between those lower energies and the higher expressions. And that as we move forward with courage and we courageously co-create our experience, the way we choose about what we involve ourselves in necessarily has to shift. It's hard to be in a conscious relationship with yourself as a co-creator and then to continue to co-create experiences of shame or guilt or fear or judgment or any of those kinds of things. Ultimately, if you're conscious of your co-creation, if you're conscious of your creative nature, at some point in time, you're going to necessarily seize hold of the reins, seize hold of the power that's involved there, and then we're going to want to correct course and keep ourselves in alignment so that we get better and better results in our lives. And as Elizabeth Gilbert reminded us, that creative living is not just for professional or artistic, that it's literally in every area of our lives. I was watching Celebration sing the song right before the talk here a moment ago. I was sitting over there in the wings, and I was watching. I was like, look at that. They're creatively expressing themselves on a song that someone else wrote. Matt's over there playing the piano, and then he's got all kinds of other tools that's adding rhythm and drums in there. He's like a one-man band over there today, right? And all of these folks are up here on stage singing through microphones that, by the way, are wireless microphones. And they have in-ear monitors. And every single one of those tools that they were using, each one of those is a creative product, is a product of creativity, is a product of creation. I mean, even Nikola Tesla is present with us this morning because we're using wireless technology, right? So all of the competence and all of the creative energies of a whole bunch of people that are nameless to us at this point in time that we don't know went into creating the products that we're using. I haven't even mentioned the cameras. I haven't even mentioned the internet or the digital streaming or the devices that you may be on your end watching us through. All of those things are creative product. It's not just about poetry. It's not just about literature. It's not just about drama or Broadway or music or any of those other kinds of things that ostensibly are easy for us to relate to as creative products. Everything is creative. Everything is creative. Say that again. Everything is creative, and we are intended to be co-creators of this experience, and we have unlimited creative potential. Unlimited creative potential. Y'all have probably heard the phrase before, the analogy, the metaphor, however you want to describe it, that we're only using about 15 to 20% of our mind capacity at this point in time. There may be some of us that are using more, some of us that are using less, but collectively, we're only accessing, let's say we access 20% of our total creative potential. Look at what all we have created with just 20%. Look at that. It's amazing. It's just like, it's mind-blowing, literally. And that if we could just increase the amplitude, so to speak, from 20% to, say, 25%, it might seem like a 5% increase on a vertical scale, but actually it's logarithmic and exponential. That if we move from 25%, or I should say when we move from 20% to 25%, we will be operating at a level of power that we can't even really conceive of at this point in time. You're welcome. You're welcome. You have a wonderful day. So that's what we're dealing with here, that we're created to be creators. We have unlimited creative potential, and that we're only creating, so to speak, up to this point in time in history at a fraction at a fraction of what our potential is. And that if we set our minds on getting ourselves into alignment with the creative principles, getting ourselves into alignment with our foundational spiritual nature, and then operating and choosing and acting and expressing in conscious alignment with that creative truth about our beings, then necessarily our creative expressions are going to have a higher and higher quality to them moving forward. And we can literally solve all the problems that we now seem to be experiencing. And I think that each one of these problems that we're seem to be experiencing in the world are invitations for us to go to our co-creative nature, to go to finding solutions for these problems. At some point in time, we have to move beyond just pointing out the problem and actually come up with creating solutions to the problem, because we can't stay stuck in just articulating the problem. We have to move forward. And it's wonderful news to know that we are born as creators, we are created as creators, we are created to be creators, and that we have unlimited creative potential. I don't know about you, but for me, that's very exciting news. It's enough for me that when I learned this news 25 years ago, it was enough of an invitation and enough motivation for me to rewire my life, to begin to get myself into alignment with that creative truth of what my being is, who my being is. And so I invite you to bring that energy into your own consciousness this week. Next week, in part 2, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Julia Cameron's work, The Vein of Gold, The Artist's Way, and so forth. And we're kind of move ourselves towards entering into an agreement, a contract, if you will, with our own creative nature. And that moving forward, that we lay hold of the creative power that is available to us. Lay hold of the creative power that we were born to demonstrate, that we were born to express. And I promise you from firsthand experience, and many of you may already know this in your own lives, but I promise you in my own experience that when you align yourself with that creative power and you begin living authentically your truth, your life is going to improve across the board in every area. The quality of your relationships, the quality of your living experience, the quality of your own prosperity consciousness, and the quality of your creative expressions. And we'll dive more into that next week and talk more about Julia Cameron's work in there. But once again, in closing here, we'll probably name check Elizabeth Gilbert again next week and everything as well. But I encourage you, if you have not checked into that book, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, I encourage you, download it on Audible. I've been listening to it while I do my morning walks and so forth. And they're short little chapters, and they're great. It reminds me of The War of Art, these short little chapters that are great little reminders and great pieces that we can easily digest. They have very practical value in our lives, so I encourage you to check into that. So with that, I want to move us into a closing prayer here as we begin to steady ourselves in this awareness that we are created as creators, that we are created by the one true creator of all in the image and likeness as children of that creative principle, and that we've been going about the business of co-creating this experience. The goal for us to be is in the position to where we are consciously co-creating this experience, that we are consciously aligning ourselves with the creative power of love, with the creative principle that activates and animates our lives. And we are ever so grateful for the power in the presence that does this for us. I'm reminded right now in this moment that it is not I, but the Christ within that does the work. It is not I, but the Christ within that does the work. My work is to connect with that indwelling Christ presence, to align myself in consciousness with that Christ presence, and then to move about my life, expressing the individual Christ that I am. We are not to be concerned with originality. We are to be more concerned with authenticity. And so we say thank you, living, loving Spirit, for providing us with all of the means to activate and express our authenticity, to express our true nature as creators. And moving forward from right now, we resolve to be consciously co-creating this experience and to be moving our experience ever so deeper and ever more correctly in alignment with the harmonizing power of love. And so we say thank you, thank you, living, loving Spirit. And we pray in the name and the nature of Jesus the Christ. And so it is, and so we allow it to be. Amen. So as we begin to move towards our closing here today, I want to take a moment here to bless our children as we bring them into a prayerful consciousness. We want to recognize that all of our children, our youth, our angels, and our teachers, even though they're not physically present with us here, they are present with us in consciousness. And so if you know this blessing, I want to invite each one of you to say it where you are right now, to speak it out loud with us. Children, youth, angels, and teachers, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ you are. Amen to that. And now is the time in our service when we get to support our spiritual community and practice the law of circulation and to cultivate that consciousness of prosperity and abundance by giving our gifts to our spiritual community. And there are a number of ways for each one of us to give. They're showing up on your screen right now. You can text to UCO at 77977 right on your phone, and you can make your offering there. You can go online to our website at unityhills.org, or you can align with our Facebook page as well. You can also download the UCO app. That's my favorite way of giving now since I've had the app on my phone. It makes it much easier. I might not be here on Sundays, and it might be Tuesday or Wednesday in the middle of the week, and I think about, oh, wow, it's good time to give. I just get that urge to give, and I don't have to be up here at church or send a check to the church or call someone. I can just get on my phone on that UCO app and make my contribution right there. We also are analog in that we'll accept a check as well, so you can mail your check here to Unity Church of the Hills if you prefer to give that way. And so as we contemplate our gift right now, and I encourage you to hold that gift in consciousness. You may already be giving it right now, even as I speak, but if you're going to give a little later in the day or a little later in the week and everything, I want you to hold that in consciousness as we speak our offering affirmation together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I circulate, and I am grateful. And Celebration is going to come up here and sing us a song. We want to thank you for that. We want to thank you again for your generous support of Unity Church of the Hills. And while the campus is closed, our church is very much open, and your gifts and tithes make that possible. So thank you once again.
The strength of my heart, and will be so forever. God is the strength of my heart, and will be so forever. Say, God is the strength of my heart, and will be so forever. God is the strength of my heart, and will be so forever. My heart was moved, I was filled up with joy. Nevertheless, my forever will be. You are my heaven, while here on earth. My desire is to have you with me. God is the strength of my heart, and will be so forever. God is the strength of my heart, and will be so forever. Say, God is the strength of my heart, and will be so forever. God is the strength of my heart, and will be so forever. My heart was moved, I was filled up with joy. be so forever. Say, God is the strength
of my heart.
and you will be
And will be so
forever and ever. Say, God is my strength.
of my heart.
Yes, He is
And will be so
forever.
forever.
Hey. God is the joy and the strength of my life. Removes all pains, misery and strife. God promised to keep me, never to leave me, never ever be short of the truth. God is the strength of my heart and will be so forever. So God is the strength of my heart and will be so forever. So God is the strength of my heart and it will be forever and ever. God is my strength, yes He is, and it will be forever. Say it like say, God is the joy and the strength of my life. Removes all things, misery and strife. God promised to keep me, never to leave me, never ever be short of the truth. God is my way out of no way. God is my healer each and every day. God is my rock and He is my shield. God is a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Say, God is my help. God is my strength. God is my shelter. I said, God is the strength of my heart and will be so forever.
Thank you once again. Celebration. Rocking the house this morning. Those are some of my favorites. All the songs today were great. I want to remind everyone, we do the school supply drive reminder that if you haven't taken advantage of the tax-free shopping yet, there is still time, and our school supply drive runs through Monday, August 10th, which is tomorrow, and we'll be open from 9 to 5 tomorrow specifically to receive your school supply contributions. So you can bring those and drop those off here at the church, and we'll make sure those get to their destination. Once again, I want to invite everybody to be sure to stick around for our conversation with our board president, Frank Phelan, immediately following the prayer for protection, which we're going to get to in just a moment. So give us just time to rearrange the stage here and hang in there with us on Facebook Live. And Frank Phelan and Tammy Lorraine will be up here in just a moment. If you do have questions for Frank, be formulating those, drop those in the Facebook Live chat, and they will get to those during the discussion. With that, I want to invite you, wherever you are, once again, to close out our worship time here this morning by reciting the prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Y'all have a great week, everybody. Peace.
everybody. Welcome back. As we mentioned, we've got Frank Phelan, board president. Thank you for taking time to share with all of us. This is going to be different than our usual going deeper. Frank's got quite a bit, I think, to share with all of us. And we'll also have an opportunity for you guys to ask questions. So, Frank,
All right.
take it away.
Thank you, Tammy. Can you all hear me okay? Am I broadcasting? Yes? We're good? All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I've got a lot of information to cover, so I'm going to cover it at a fairly high level so that we have time to have questions and answers and convey as much information as possible to everyone that's participating. I'd like to start out, though, to think of this as a continuation of Rick's talk on the co-creation piece, because that's what we're doing here. The board activities are continual processes of co-creation for Unity Churches of the Hills as a whole. And so these activities are part of that process, and we engage in utilization of the other Unity principles, prayer and meditation and knowing that God is and we are all the same, and it's all love. And so we move from that space, and I'm going to go right into some of these topics because we've got a lot to cover. The first one, I wanted to just address the response to the COVID-19 virus that's going on by the church. It may not be apparent at face value, but there is a lot of work that has occurred in the past. We had to go completely virtual. But then there's continual ongoing work at the administration level, the operations level. We have a reopening committee that includes board representatives, staffs, and members of the laity that are constantly looking at and reevaluating and updating policies and approaches and providing pathways, planned pathways for things as they shift. So we're trying to stay proactive and moving forward with that. They have a three-phase or three-emphasis approach around that of both services as well as group activities and then our youth programs. And all of those things are constantly being looked at and discussed. And then we have some other programs, things like our InReach, where an example of that is the sharing is caring piece. Mm-hmm. We're constantly innovating. Staff is coming up with amazing new ideas on how to respond to this in a positive, principled way. I'd like to move on, talk a little bit about finances now. There's been a lot of activity. In fact, these past few months, I would say the board has been more active than any of the prior 8 years I've been on the Board of Trustees. And it may not, again, be apparent, but that's one of the reasons why we're having this piece. As you all are hopefully aware, we applied for the PVP program, and the church did receive a grant loan, and those funds have been helping us walk through this challenging time. We also negotiated a 3-month deferment with our bank, which ended last month, and so we're now back to paying full mortgage and interest, principal and interest on the mortgage. We've been working on, staff really is doing the majority of the legwork on that, reducing operational costs as well, so that we can continue to be fully staffed, but do it in a way that is economical. The last piece I wanted to talk about was gifts and ties. 3 weeks ago, Dr. Raz addressed a situation that we now have seen coming. In past, I've received feedback from congregants when we have gotten into a situation where there's been financial difficulty. Congregants have come to me and said, well, why are you telling me about this after the fact? We want to know what's going on enough so that we can plan and we know what's happening with the church upcoming. And so, I have to say, it's been marvelous working with Dr. Raz and with Ron, our new financial director. We did that work and we looked forward. And so 3 weeks ago, we realized that at our current level of giving, we're going to work our way through those PPP funds and basically not be able to operate at the same level that we have been. And so he addressed that 3 weeks ago. I spoke to it briefly 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to address it again more specifically. And this time, just to put some numbers to it so that we understand what it looks like, we are running about 25% below what we need to operate at to be able to be fully functional the way we are operating in this current COVID-19 environment. What that looks like is we need to bring in about another $5,000 a week. So specifically, we've got an idea of what that looks like. We also know we live in an unlimited resource universe that supplies absolutely everything that's needed just on time. So we're going to hold that in consciousness as a community and see that happening as we move forward to meet the needs so that we can continue to co-create on all the other levels that we work on. And 3 more topics and then I'll be quiet. Healing work. Last fall was tough, and there's still folks that are wanting to heal around what happened last fall, and we've been doing work on that. Just so you're aware, the board has done work with Dr. Teal around putting some finalization to that, and it is a process. The church, through the Spirit groups, has been working with the Eye of the Storm, which is a great healing process. The end of this month, Dr. Teal's going to be bringing in what he calls Bridges to Breakthrough, which he's used before to assist. Since we did not engage interim transitional ministry through UWM, we're serious about providing additional opportunities to work through anything that's vestiges of past hurts, so that we can let go of those and move forward. And then we've also been talking with Dr. Raz about some inner child work as well too. So this will be an ongoing process that will continue to roll out things as we move forward. Another very important piece, of course, is the ministerial search. And there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes around that as well too. The board did a visioning process and came up with an initial vision, I will call it, as we start the process to provide a basis for our ministerial search teams, which we discussed the concept of that. We developed roles and responsibilities for 3 different teams. We'll have a ministerial search team. We're going to have something called a promotional team, or something to that effect, that will effectively promote Unity Church of the Hills in this position in our incredible community in Central Texas. To invite in a minister that's going to exactly meet our needs. And then we have a prayer team that we're going to have that will hold consciousness during this whole process. And there are a total of 24 people that are going to be participating in those 3 teams. So it's a powerful group too. I'm really, really pleased. All the board is very pleased with the folks that are going to be participating in that. And know that there are going to be plenty of opportunities for congregate input, for viewing ministers here, candidates that we've vetted that look like the right fit. So that process will continue to unfold. And we're activating the teams right now. Kickoff meeting is imminent, and so those are going to be moving forward. We did receive a question earlier about elections, and so I'll go ahead and address that right now. We have 3 3-year terms that are up, and the current board members that are up for re-election are Mary Spangberg, Sherry Ross, and Ellen Fannin. Now, both Sherry and Ellen have committed to rerunning for their board positions, and Mary has decided that she's served enough. And Mary, you have served enough.
Yes,
She has spent more time on the board than anybody else at this church, and we're grateful, and thank you, Mary, for all your service. We're so grateful. The nominating team, which geared up in April, is moving forward. They've been accepting nominations. We'll be accepting those through to the 21st, I believe. And so you can go online. There was an email that just went out with the link to be able to make suggestions. I know we've had a number of candidates put forward so far, so the nominating team is already going through that rigorous vetting process that goes into that. I think the only other thing I wanted to add was that next week, I wanted to remind everybody we're going to have the full board here. One of the things that we got messaging on for a long time was the inaccessibility of the board, and we do want to remain accessible. We have the From the Boardroom piece. We now have individual board emails, and then we wanted to continue ongoing dialogue. And so what used to be the new person's reception morphed into a congregant reception, and then now that we are in the COVID-19 operation, we wanted to start doing this virtually. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here, and I just want to say thank you, and we'll go move into questions.
Yeah, and I'm sure all of you have been listening intently. I thought I talked fast. That was a lot covered very quickly, Frank. Thank you so much. And that Virtual gathering with the board will be next Sunday at 1 p.m. on Zoom. That link is up on our website. And I did want to say that for the Roger Teal event, that is like a brand new thing. It's not even on our website yet, but we will have it up there ASAP for you guys to be able to register. So I know I saw a question come through, and if you guys have questions, now's a great time to start typing them in there. Oops, scrolling too much. Sorry, guys. Are there concerns that we will be faced with only a few candidates to consider for the ministerial position? And how is the board taking steps to ensure we have a good bench to select from? That's a question from one congregant.
Absolutely, great question. One of the things I want to emphasize is that I was not on the search team the last time we went into the ministerial search, and I know that team set about progressing in a way that was very logical in terms of looking at every single Unity Church in the United States and going through that process. This time, one of the directives that I feel very strongly we want to give to our ministerial search team is to also emphasize the intuitive part and the open part. And so one of the things that we're doing, because there are ways to bring in folks that may be from outside Unity Church and then have them become Unity ministers in the role as a minister. We're broadening the scope of the search this time. So we'll have more candidates, and there are additional networks of folks that we have now available to us as a result of opening that up. One of the things that I do want to stress and be very clear about is that I know there are some folks that may have had concerns about the fact that, we presently, our current minister, interim minister, is not a Unity minister. We are a Unity church, and we will remain a Unity church. And so I just want to state that plainly, so it's not a concern. It doesn't need to be anything that has to be run through the ringer, and we're gonna stay a Unity church. But I'm confident that the right person is going to be placed here to respond to our consciousness. And we, the board, has already gone through and done an initial vision that incorporates some amazing traits. So we are ambitious with regard to our vision for this community.
Thank you. I just have to say how much I love our community. This next question is, could we please get an update on Dr. Raz? How is he doing, and how can we support him? And I love that question. I know Tina is watching with us, and Tina, I just want you to know from all of us how much we love you and how much we are praying with you and with Raz. So do you have any additional updates?
Well,
I know.
I spoke with Tina yesterday, and Raz is doing okay. She is unfortunately unable to spend much time with him because of the COVID-19 protocols. But in some ways, he's being taken care of. My greater concern has been for Tina, who came down here and is not by herself. The church has been supporting. Shonda was able to help pick her up from the airport, and she has standing offers for company and support as she needs it. So we really want to support both Raz and Tina through this time as we move forward, and we'll continue to update everybody as we know more.
Beautiful, thank you. Is there more you want to say? I'm surprised that our congregation doesn't have more questions.
I'm shocked.
I know you guys have questions out there. Let's see, I did just get a new comment. Let me see if there's a question in there. Anything, though, that you would like to add, Frank, to what you've kind of already shared?
I have to admit, I'm really surprised. I thought there would be more questions. I think the ministerial search piece is such a large piece of that creative process that we get to engage in. And so I really want to encourage everybody to look inside and ask yourself, what is the teacher, the leader, the inspiration, the consciousness that I need for myself and for this community? You know, we've had some amazing teachers here, and the universe has grown our church to a point where we have a church that can effectively operate without a senior minister. We've done it before. We're doing it in this moment because so many folks here have been brought up in their consciousness, in their knowledge, in their practices, in their dominion, and we continue to do that. I think of all the people that have grown here and then carry things out. You know, Reverend Donna, Reverend Eileen, Reverend Linda, you know, to name a few. We have folks like Clay, who started the Men's Fellowship Network, and that's broadened. And so there are a lot of examples of those sorts of things. And so I'm really curious as to the person that's going to take us to that next step. But I know whatever it is, it's this person or these people are going to be amazing. And so looking inward and asking, you know, what do I want the universe to provide for my own spiritual growth, I think is an important piece. And our prayer team is going to be formulating a prayer, an affirmational prayer around who and what that entity is going to be and look like. And we'll have that opportunity then to practice that and hone that and employ that in the engagement process of bringing in our new spiritual leader.
Thank you, Frank. So I just have a couple comments and then another question. So Kim said that you provided so much great information. That's probably why we don't have a lot of questions. So, and yes, you did. You were very thorough. And then James wanted to give us a shout out to all the leaders for demonstrating such an elevated consciousness and stability during an uncertain time. Thank you, James, for that sweet compliment. And that goes to all of the members of the board if you're watching, for sure. So let's see. We've got two questions now. So this one, to increase the giving 5,000 a week seems like a lot, but how do we break that down in a way that gives everybody a little reference? The example given is 100 people give $10 more a week. So I think you kind of answered the question, but maybe if there's more you want to say around that.
Well, yes, I think, so yes, we could do the arithmetic, and you know, I'm an engineer, I love math, and so we could do all the arithmetic and break it down to what does this look like in terms of dollar per person and so forth. We've always shied away from that a little bit because there's a big swath of how people participate, and not everybody has the same set of resources available to them. And so for some people, it may be a few dollars, and for others, it may be a few thousands. And that, so we want to honor that. So I think the way to look at it that anybody can apply to their own personal giving is as a percentage. I know what I typically give, and if I increase that by 25%, then we're golden. Because that's, if we've been collectively giving that much less than we need to be solvent, then if everybody increases by that amount or more, we're going to not only be solvent, but we'll be flush. You know, we aren't in dire straits yet. And we, you know, we never have been. You have never had a panicky board.
Yeah. Yes, that is so true.
You know, we've got reserves at this point, but we're looking forward. Again, this is an advance notice of saying, you know, we need to increase what we're doing so that we can be solvent as we move through, as we exhaust the remainder of the PPP funds, that we can stay fully staffed, so that we can continue to operate, provide, you know, I'm so blown away at all of the programs and so forth that have been done. You know, the school supply piece, the sharing is caring, the garden raffle, you know, these small things, there's countless hours that staff spend in the creative process, in putting these things together and working out all the details and getting the announcements made and coordinating the people, providing the resources necessary to make it happen. And so all of that creative energy is a part of what our gifts and tithes go to fund. And it's how we change Austin. It's how we change Central Texas and the world is with this consciousness, which includes the monetary piece as well as our time, our love, our energy, and in service work. I think the piece that's so important about that fifth principle, that we practice these things, is that we employ these things through service. That's the magnifying power of service. It just can't be understated.
Absolutely, thank you. And I just want to add to the increase in the giving is the benefit as an individual. I know I've seen it in my own life. You can't outgive God, and the more you give, the more it flows back to you. We all know that. So I've got another question here, which is how can we enjoy the campus and support the church right now?
Wonderful question. So I learned something this week about our campus. Some folks were here on campus engaging with the campus and mentioned at the end of their time, went up and hugged the tree in the center of our labyrinth. And it's, by the way, it's tree number 42, which for those of you that have read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy know that is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. So, there are ways to come and engage at Unity Church of the Hills right now that are safe and responsible within the context of the COVID-19 virus. You can come anytime. The campus is always open. You can come and walk the labyrinth and spend time here in contemplation and prayer and meditation. Also, we have this beautiful garden. And you need to coordinate with folks on when you come to participate in it. But it's a magnificent garden. I've never seen anything like it. As far as like a communal garden, it's just amazing what we're producing there. And so you can come and plant and weed and participate and cultivate something that's providing for our staff, for the greater community that's in need, and is also providing some continual funding. We created, there's a whole committee around operations of that garden that include multiple aspects and ways to engage the community further, to be able to make sure that it's the use of those produced fruits and vegetables are the most effective use of that. And then so far as to create a cost center and a budget for that we're now heading into the budget cycle for the church for this year. We have a fiscal year that ends September 30 and starts October 1, and we're engaging in that process, I think, earlier than we ever have, and I'm glad for that. So we're going to have a really well-developed budget this year. But included in that is a budget for the sustainability of the garden. And so it is a piece that you can always come here and participate in. And there may be others, but those are the ones that come to mind right off the top of my head.
Thank you. I did want to note, I've seen a couple suggestions for some talk preferences, topics that you guys would like to see from the platform, and I will make a note of them and share them with Dr. Raz. And so I did want to ask this next question, which is kind of around maybe touching on some of the operational cost savings that we've had. Mm-hmm. I know you kind of asked me to maybe talk about some of those, so I'll do my best. And I know there are probably a lot more I don't even know about, but we have closed Unity Oaks. And as a result of that, we've cut down way down on having to run the AC in there, having to have it cleaned. A lot of cost benefit from that. Jennifer was spot on early on, getting with the printer that we rent from, and getting basically a reduction, a massive reduction in the cost for that. And I know that there are others, but those are the two that kind of come to mind right now. So let me see if I have any other questions in here for you, Frank. Let's see. Don't forget all of the amazing volunteers who also work tirelessly. Thank you so much for that reminder.
Absolutely.
So I think I caught them all. So do you have any closing comments?
Well, I do want to, all of my prayers these days seem to start with gratitude. And there is so much for us to be grateful for here. And enumerating them, I think it's worthwhile. And so I appreciate that last comment. You know, we have this phenomenal congregation, and we have literally hundreds of volunteers that participate in the ongoing functioning and development and growth of this community. And you know, I have to say, service work is an act of faith. If I spend my time, my energy, my resources to do something for somebody else, I'm not engaged in doing it for myself. And so it's an act of faith that my needs are met. I'm being taken care of. I can go do this thing for somebody else. And so we have literally hundreds of people that are in that space where they have this faith that they know they can spend this time to help out our community and the community at large. And then our staff. You know, we have a staff that's just phenomenal, that's lovely to work with. You know, when Raz you know, went into the hospital, we kind of reverted back into a mode where I was more involved with the operational piece. And I have to say, my heart just sprang with joy at being able to be back and be involved with this community at that level, because we do have such amazing staff. We have our board of trustees that is so devoted. We have our ministers, and we have really multiple ministers when you think about it. And so there are so many folks here that are doing such amazing things. And I'm so grateful for that. It continues to grow me and challenge me. And I know for all of you all too, that's all here. And
We are being stretched, are we not? Yeah. Well, we love you guys so very much. I'm so grateful for all of you who've stayed on to listen and to connect with us and to share your questions. Just a reminder that you'll have an opportunity with the entire board on Zoom next Sunday at 1 p.m. via Zoom, and that's our virtual board gathering. And you'll be, depending on the number of people, we can do breakout rooms, you can talk one-on-one. It'll also be an opportunity to connect with your fellow congregants. So please join us then, and in the meantime, have an absolutely beautiful and fantastic day and week. We love you.